we're up to every player with a last name starting with J in Major League Baseball history. 692 players. Ray Jumblowski, Fred Jackenlich, Will Jackman, Jackson, Al Jackson, Alex Jackson, Andre Jackson, Austin Jackson, Big Train Jackson, Bill Jackson, Bo Jackson, Bozo Jackson, Brett Jackson, Charlie Jackson, Chuck Jackson, Connor Jackson, Damian Jackson, Danny Jackson, Daryl Jackson, Darren Jackson, Dick Jackson, Drew Jackson, Edgar Jackson, Edwin Jackson, Francis Jackson, Freddie Jackson, General Jackson, George Jackson, Grant Jackson, Henry Jackson, Herbert Jackson, Jack Jackson, Jay Jackson, Jelly Jackson, Jim Jackson, Joe Jackson, John Jackson, Ken Jackson, Larry Jackson, Lincoln Jackson, Lou Jackson, Luke Jackson, Matthew Jackson, Mike Jackson, Randy Jackson, Reggie Jackson, Hall of Famer, 1967 to 1987, Ron Jackson. Reggie Jackson also leads the major leagues in career strikeouts. Roy Lee Jackson, Ryan Jackson, Sam Jackson, Sanford Jackson, Sonny Jackson, Steven Jackson, Tom Jackson, Travis Jackson, Hall of Famer, 1922 to 36. Excuse me, Zach Jackson, Ouch Jacob, Mike Jacob, Art Jacobs, Bucky Jacobs, Eddie Jacobs, Elmer Jacobs, Mike Jacobs, Jake Jacobs, Mike Jacobs, Otto Jacobs, Ray Jacobs, Spook Jacobs, Tony Jacobs, Bucky Jacobson, Bobby Doll Jacobson, Beanie Jacobson, Merwin Jacobson, Larry Jacobus, Brooke Jacoby, Harry Jacoby, Jason Jacome, Joe Jacques, Pat Jacquiz, Thomas Jacques, Jake Rill, Charlie Yeager, Joe Yeager, Clarence Joggers, John Jaha, Art John, Juan Jamie, Chris Jabuskis, Sig Jakuki, Charles Jamerson, Tinsy Jamerson, Art James, Bernie James, Bert James, Bill James, Bob James, Charlie James, Chris James, Chuck James, Cleo James, Delvin James, Dion James, Jeff James, Johnny James, Josh James, Justin James, Lefty James, Mike James, Rick James, Skip James, Chice James, Dre Jameson, Charlie Jameson, Gary Janeski, Paul Janish, Jordan Jankowski, Travis Jankowski, Mickey Janis, Vic Janowicz, Danny Jensen, Kenley Jansen, Larry Jansen, Ray Jansen, Casey Jansen, Walter Jansen, Hal Jandren, Marty Jansen, Jason Hamarillo, Donald Harmon, Bryce Jarvis, Kevin Jarvis, Pat Jarvis, Ray Jarvis, Roy Jarvis, John Jotho, Hi Jasper, John Jasper, Larry Jaster, Paul Jata, Al Javery, Al Javier, Kristen Javier, Julian Javier, Stan Javier, Griffin Jacks, Joey J, John J, Tyler J, Miles J, Domingo Jean, Tex Johns, George, Jeffcoat, Hal Jeffcoat, Mike Jeffcoat, Dalton Jeffries, Greg Jeffries, Ryan Jeffers, Bob Jefferson, Don Jefferson, Eddie Jefferson, George Jefferson, Jesse Jefferson, Ralph Jefferson, Reggie Jefferson, Stan Jefferson, Willie Jefferson, Jeremy Jeffries, Harry Jeffries, Irv Jeffries, Jim Jeffries, M. Jeffries, Sonny Boy Jeffries, Chris Jellick, Frank Jelinek, Greg Jelks, Steve Jelks, Charlie Jemison, Jenkins, Barney Jenkins, Bill Jenkins, Chad Jenkins, Fetch Jenkins, Fergie Jenkins, Hall of Famer, 1965 to 1983, Jeff Jenkins, Honey Jenkins, Horace Jenkins, Jack Jenkins, Joe Jenkins, John Jenkins, Pee Wee Jenkins, Tom Jenkins, Tyrell Jenkins, Bobby Jenks, Alonzo Jennings, Bill Jennings, Dan Jennings, Desmond Jennings, Doug Jennings, Hugh Jennings, Hall of Famer, 1891 to 1918. Wow. Wow, that's a nice career. Jason Jennings, Robin Jennings, Thurman Jennings, Jackie Jensen, Kyle Jensen, Marcus Jensen, Ryan Jensen, Willie Jensen, Woody Jensen, Kevin Jepson, Williams Perez, Mike Jezerembeck, Dan Jesse, Jessup, Gentry Jessup, Gary Justed, Virgil Jester, Derek Jeter, Hall of Famer 95 to 2014, Johnny Jeter, Sean Jeter, Sam Jethro, Jake Jewell, Vale Jewell, Matt Jewett, AJ Jimenez, Vito Jimenez, Cesar Jimenez, D'Angelo Jimenez, Danny Jimenez, Eduardo Jimenez, Eloy Jimenez, Elvio Jimenez, Eswibio Jimenez, Harman Jimenez, Houston Jimenez, Jason Jimenez, Joe Jimenez, Jose Jimenez, Juan Jimenez, Kelvin Jimenez, Leo Jimenez, Luis Jimenez, Manny Jimenez, Miguel Jimenez, Ubaldo Jimenez, Charlton Jimerson, Waldis Joaquin, Jackson Joe, Brett Jody, Connor Joe, Kenji Jojima, Tommy John, 1963 to 1989, first pitcher to get Tommy John surgery, not a Hall of Famer. I want to do a video on him in a later. Augie Johns, Doug Johns, Keith Johns, Ollie Johns, Pete Johns, Tommy Johns, 1873 only. Johnson, Abe Johnson, Adam Johnson, Al Johnson, Alan Johnson, Alex Johnson, Art Johnson, Bart Johnson, Ben Johnson, Bert Johnson, Bill Johnson, Billy Johnson, Bob Johnson, Bob Johnson, Brian Johnson, Bryce Johnson, Bucky Johnson, Buster Johnson, Cecil Johnson, Charles Johnson, Charlie Johnson, Chet Johnson, Chris Johnson, Claude Johnson, Cliff Johnson, Connie Johnson, Dan Johnson, Dane Johnson, Daniel Johnson, Daryl Johnson, Dave Johnson, Davey Johnson, Deron Johnson, Dicta Johnson, DJ Johnson, Don Johnson, Earl Johnson, Ed Johnson, Eddie Johnson, Elliot Johnson, Ellis Johnson, Elmer Johnson, Eric Johnson, Ernie Johnson, Freddie Johnson, Frank Johnson, Fred Johnson, Gary Johnson, George Johnson, Hank Johnson, Heavy Johnson, Howard Johnson, Jack Johnson, Jason Johnson, Jeff Johnson, Jerry Johnson, Jim Johnson, John Johnson, Jimmy Johnson, Jimmy Johnson, James Johnson, Joe Johnson, John Henry Johnson, John Wesley Johnson, Johnny Johnson, Johnny Johnson, Johnny Johnson, Jonathan Johnson, Josh Johnson, Judy Johnson, Hall of Famer, 1923-36, Keith Johnson, Kelly Johnson, Ken Johnson, Chris Johnson, Lamar Johnson, Lance Johnson, Larry Johnston, oh no, that's Johnson. Lemon Johnson, Lee Johnson, Lefty Johnson again, Leonard Johnson, Lloyd Johnson, Lou Johnson, M Johnson, Mark Johnson, Mex Johnson, Mika Johnson, Mike Johnson, Monk Johnson, Nate Johnson, Nick Johnson, Otis Johnson, Paul Johnson, Pearlie Johnson, Pierce Johnson, Ralph Johnson, Randy Johnson, 1988 to 2009 Hall of Famer, will be having his number 51 retired by the Mariners next season. Rankin Johnson, Ray Johnson, Reed Johnson, Rob Johnson, Rondon Johnson, Rontrez Johnson, Roy Johnson, Russ Johnson, Ryan Johnson, S. Johnson, Seth Johnson, Shang Johnson, Sherman Johnson, C. Johnson, Spud Johnson, Stan Johnson, Steve Johnson, Sil Johnson, Tim Johnson, Tom Johnson, Tommy Johnson, Troy Johnson, Tracy Johnson, Tyler Johnson, Hugh Johnson, Vic Johnson, Wallace Johnson, Walter Johnson, 1907 to 27, Hall of Famer, William Johnson, Youngie Johnson, Dick Johnston, Doc Johnston, Fred Johnston, Greg Johnston, Jimmy Johnston, Joel Johnston, Johnny Johnston, Mike Johnston, Rex Johnston, Wade Johnston, Johnstone, Jay Johnstone, John Johnstone, Roy Joyner, Stan Joke, Eric Jokic, Smead Jolly, Dave Jolly, Jones, A. Jones, Adam Jones, not the guy from the Bengals who always gets, or the Titans who always gets arrested. Al Jones, Alex Jones, not the one you're thinking of, 1889 to 1903. Andrew Jones, Art Jones, Arthur Jones, Barry Jones, Benny Jones, Binky Jones, Bob Jones, Bobby Jones, Brandon Jones, Bird Jones, Robbie Jones, Bud Jones, Bumpus Jones, Calvin Jones, Carol Jones, Casey Jones, Charlie Jones, Chipper Jones, Hall of Famer, 1993 to 2012. Chris Jones, Clarence Jones, Cleon Jones, Cobe Jones, Collins Jones, Cowboy Jones, Curtis Jones, Dale Jones, Dalton Jones, Damon Jones, Daryl Jones, David Jones, Davy Jones, Locker, Dax Jones, Deacon Jones, Dick Jones, Doug Jones, Earl Jones, Elijah Jones, Eugene Jones, Fielder Jones, Frank Jones, Garrett Jones, Gary Jones, Gordon Jones, Greg Jones, Hal Jones, Hank Jones, Henry Jones, Howie Jones, Hunter Jones, Jack Jones, Jacoby Jones, Jock Jones, John Hyde Jones, Jake Jones, James Jones, Jared Jones, Jason Jones, Jeff Jones, Jim Jones, Jimmy Jones, John Jones, Johnny Jones, Ken Jones, Kevin Jones, Lynn Jones, Mac Jones, Marcus Jones, Mike Jones, Mint Jones, Mitch Jones, Nate Jones, Nippy Jones, Nolan Jones, Odell Jones, Oscar Jones, Percy Jones, Pete Jones, Randy Jones, Ray Jones, Red Jones, RJ Jones, Ricky Jones, Ron Jones, Rookie Jones, Ross Jones, Reuben Jones, Rupert Jones, Ryder Jones, Sam Jones, Sheldon Jones, Sherman Jones, Slim Jones, Stacy Jones, Steve Jones, Shug Jones, Taylor Jones, Terry Jones, Tex Jones, Tim Jones, Timothy Jones, Todd Jones, Tom Jones, Tracy Jones, Walter Jones, Will Jones, Willie Jones, Bubber Johnard, Claude Johnard, Eddie Jost, I can't tell. Brian Jordan, Buck Jordan, Cecil Jordan, Charlie Jordan, Dutch Jordan, Harry Jordan, Hen Jordan, Jimmy Jordan, Kevin Jordan, Larney Jordan, Levi Jordan, Mike Jordan, Mick Jordan, Niles Jordan, Ricardo Jordan, Ricky Jordan, Rip Jordan, Scott Jordan, Slatch Jordan, Taylor Jordan, Tim Jordan, Tom Jordan, Felix Jorge, and Horgans, Orville Horgans, Mike Horgenson, Pinky Horgenson, Ryan Horgenson, Spider Horgenson, Terry Horgenson, Felix Jose, Caleb Joseph, Corbin Joseph, Donnie Joseph, Kevin Joseph, Newt Joseph, Rick Joseph, Tommy Joseph, Wilson Joseph, Dwayne Josephson, Vaughn Joshua, Eddie Joff, 1902 to 1910 Hall of Famer. Ted Jordan, Jimmy Jornal, Pep Joy, Ben Joyce, Bill Joyce, Rob Joyce, Dick Joyce, George Joyce, Matt Joyce, Mike Joyce, Wiley Joyner, Mike Judd, not the King of the Hill creator, Oscar Judd, Ralph Judd, Frank Judd, Jeff Juden, Aaron Judge will be Hall of Fame eligible at the end of this season, Joe Judge, Wally Juden, Howie Judson, Josh Judy, Lyle Judy, Red Tulik, Eduardo Julian, Jorge Julio, uh, what? Corey Julks, George Humanville, Jace Young, Josh Young, Eric Young, Ken Youngles, Taylor Youngman, Jacob Junis, Jackson Junk, Ariel Huardo, Ed Jurek, Eli Duran, Johnny Duran, Mike Jerwicks, Billy Hergs, Al Jurish, Jair Jurins, Joe Just, Charlie Justice, David Justice, Evan Justice, Walt Justice, Kip Juts, Harry Jewell, and Herb Jewell. Just about 11 minutes for that. Not bad.
And again, thank you for tuning into the videos. Don't forget that you can also see me on Patreon at Sammy5436, where it's $1 a month. I also am seeable on Instagram at Sammy5436. TikTok at Sammy5436. I'm on Blue Sky at Sammy5436, though I don't use that often. I believe I'm on Tumblr at Sammy5436, but I haven't used that in at least a year. And you can find me at my business email, thetrapezoidtalks5436 at gmail.com. Any information you need to send to those business emails will be looked at. I generally look at my business email on Wednesdays and Sundays, so just do be advised that I do not always have the ability to respond immediately, but if you do send an email to my business email, and as long as it's not offensive, I will respond if it's something I'm interested in with something positive, and if it's something I'm not interested in, I will thank you for your email and go ahead and say that there may be a future opportunity for us to collaborate if that's something you're interested in.